Hi everyone, it's Shaw from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. Today's day 10 in the 2022 Countdown to Christmas series, and we're going to be making a beachy Christmas card for all my friends who celebrate Christmas in the warm weather. I'm going to use some Lawn Fawn stamps and dies, which if you saw my last haul video, I recently got these. And some older products from Honeybee, this Sandy Shores background stamp, and then the Making Waves dies. Those dies are from a set that are for slimlines, but work great for other size cards. So I started off with a craft card base that measures 5.5 by 6.5. It was one of the pre-made ones. And I cut down a piece of white cardstock to the exact same measurements. And I'm going to use one of those dies from that Making Waves die set. I'm going to run it through my Big Shot, and we're just going to use the top part of it. I am going to use the bottom part, however, to create kind of a mask to show where the horizon line would be between the sky and the sea. I'm going to start off with some Distress Oxide in Tumbled Glass, and that's going to be the color that is closest to the horizon. And then I'm going to use some Stormy Sky Distress Oxide. And I didn't realize that the Stormy Sky was so gray. I think this is the first time that I've ever used the oxide. I don't believe the ink is that gray, but it really looked gray next to this Tumbled Glass. So you'll notice that I keep going back and forth between the two different colors to try to get a little bit more of a blend and kind of make it look a little bit less gray. But it could have just been a storm coming in. It's definitely a stronger color than that Tumbled Glass. So there you see I'm going back in with the Tumbled Glass and then more of that Stormy Sky. Oh, I wanted it to look like there was a horizon line and have the water, but then also we're going to be using that craft card base to create sand. And I thought that that would be the easiest way to do it. So after I'm happy with the way the sky looks, I'm going to flip it over so that, and put the magnets in place so that just a very, very tiny part of that line, that bottom line that Tumbled Glass is showing, because you don't want a white line between the two. Now I'm going in with some Blueprint Sketch as the darkest part of the ocean, and then Mermaid Lagoon and Salty Ocean. Oh, those are the three colors that I chose for the water. As you would go out further away from the beach and the water is deeper, it would be a darker blue. So that's why I decided to use the darkest blue on the very top color, and then go to Mermaid Lagoon and then out to Salty Ocean. But you'll notice when I go in with the Salty Ocean, I don't do the very edge of the water. I leave that because at first I thought that I was going to do kind of a white foam, but then I realized it was getting late at night and I needed to get ready to go to bed and, finish doing some stuff for work this week. And I just decided that I was gonna do like probably some paste or something, but I realized it probably wouldn't dry in time for me to take pictures and stuff. So I'm just going to leave that little edge white there, and I will do something with it in the end product. But I wanted to leave that little bit of white to kind of make it look like the foam. Once I'm happy with the way that the background is turning out so far, I'm going to put it onto the card base and see how it looks with the sand minus the grains that we're going to stamp in a minute. That's the next part of the card. I'm going to bring that Honeybee Stamps background out with some frayed burlap and brushed corduroy. So we're going to start with the frayed burlap first. I'm going to stamp it, and obviously it's not as wide as the background, so we're going to have to stamp it twice. There are some areas that didn't stamp at all, which is fine because we're going to use the two different shades, and again, you don't want it to look fully even, so that was fine with me. Then I'm going to go in with some brushed corduroy on the other side of the stamp. So I used the top portion for the first color and then the bottom portion for the second color, so that I wasn't stamping the dots right on top of each other. And again, moving the stamp around just to fill in some of the areas that didn't get stamped, maybe either got missed or didn't stamp really well. So then once I put the other background onto there, I'm really liking the way it's looking, but I wanted to darken up the edges a little bit. So I took some ground espresso in Distress Oxide and went around the edges of the card with this. I tried not to be too heavy-handed with the ink blending, but pulled it in a little bit and went around all 3 of the sides to just add a little bit of shading. So once that was done, I'm going to go ahead and add the top piece to it to see how it looks. And then we are going to get moving on to the die cutting. So I'm just going to show you a couple pieces that I die cut. I did them all the same way. I ran them through my bitty buzz cutter. So you're going to see me cut out the trunk as well as the coconuts that are going to go into the top of the palm tree. I'm just attaching them because there was very little room for error or for them moving on this because the paper just fit that trunk. So I'm going to put it into the bitty buzz cutter, run it through. This is so handy. I love keeping this on my desk for small dies. It cuts everything out so well. So here are the pieces that I cut out. I cut out the lights, the trunk, the coconut, and the palm for the palm tree. And I'm using some Distress Oxide in that same ground espresso to add color to the trunk. You could definitely cut these out of colored cardstock and then add shading with markers or pencils, or you could cut everything out of white and do what I'm doing, use pencils, markers, ink, however you'd like to get color onto it. I'm going to be doing a mix of using Distress Oxide as well as using Copic markers for some of them. So you can see I just added darker parts to where the lines are. There's little cut marks in the palm tree. And then for the coconuts, they kept moving around. So what I did was kind of just tap my brush on top of them, and it left a little bit of a texture because of the bristles on it. I'm going to be moving on to the palm tree, and unfortunately a lot of this got cut out. I think that there wasn't any more memory left on my camera, but I did go in with some mowed lawn and add some green to here. I did go back in with some rustic wilderness, added some color there, went in with a Copic marker. I'm also going to off screen color in the lights with Copic markers, and I apologize that all of that did not get caught on camera, and I put the palm tree together. So for the palm tree, you actually just weave the lights through it. If any of you guys want a video on how to do that, I will do another video on that. We're going to move on to the stamping of the Santa, the surfboard, and the sandcastle, all the S's. And I'm going to be using some Lawn Fawn jet black ink to ink these images up. I am using these for the first time, so I will run my hands over top of them just in case there's any film left over from production on them, and this will help them take the ink a little bit better. Well, you'll see me do that, and I do use my Stamp Perfect because I do stamp them twice because they are brand new stamps. And then I let the ink dry on those for a little bit. And we're going to use some Copic markers to color them in. I decided to use the purple and the aqua on the surfboard, and then the pink and the blue for Santa. I did choose a second color of marker for both of the colors that were on the surfboard, just to give it a little bit of depth and dimension so it wasn't so flat because the surfboard would be rounded. And I put a little bit of shading right in the middle, and then we're going to move on to the aqua coloring the middle of this. So this one was a lot of fun to do. I'm missing the beach right now. I unfortunately did not get to spend a lot of time at the shore during the summer. I usually do, and we usually take a vacation towards the end of the year. We are not this year. My parents are away, but us as a whole family are not taking a trip this year. We're not going until next year, which is fine. But I am really missing the beach and the warm weather, at least for tomorrow, which it will actually be, Halloween when you guys see this. It's not supposed to rain here, so it's still supposed to be a little bit chilly, but at least it's not raining for the kids. But what I wouldn't give right now to be on a beach with a tropical drink and just relaxing and enjoying like my parents are. So in honor of them and in honor of my friends who sometimes go to the beach on Christmas, I thought that I would do this. I really thought this stamp set was so cute when I saw it on Lawn Fawn's website and for their newest release. So I thought I had to get this one. And I usually try to do some type of beachy Christmas card each year. This will be mine for the season. Maybe I might do another one if I get inspired again, or if there's another stamp set that comes out that has beach stuff in there. But this one was super cute. I love the images in this. So you'll see I'm going in with a couple shades of that pink, and I think that was R34 and R43. And then I was going to use this this is E53. I was going to use it as just the shadow, but then I realized, hey, if Santa's hanging out at the beach, he probably has a nice tan. So I didn't really worry too much about shading in this whole entire thing because these images are so tiny and I did so much with the background. I wanted that to be more of the standout and then the images just to be on there. So I'm using a C2 marker to go around and add a little bit of shading to anything that might be white, because when something is white, it still has shadows on it. So you'll see I added a little bit of shading. Then I took a W7 and I was going to color that in for the sandcastle, but it was a little bit too gray still. I pulled out a E marker. I think this is E37 or E57 maybe, and I'm coloring in the entire thing. It matched really, really well in the end with the color sand. When you see, after I fussy cut all this out, you'll see how it looks up against the sand. I'm just coloring that in, and then I am going to be adding that W7 to the windows. I actually take a little bit of a darker marker and go back in and add dots to it, but you don't really see that in the end product. I will go back in and add some dots with something else later on. And then I'm going back in and adding the same colors for the lights that are on the Christmas tree to the lights that are on the sandcastle. I thought this was so adorable that they also had lights on the sandcastle that will match the lights on the palm tree. So using the exact same colors and just filling all of those in. I'm going to add the W7 in for the windows and then add little dots around the castle just for a little bit more texture. And then we are going to fussy cut them out off camera and stamp the sentiment. The sentiment comes from that same stamp set, and it says Merry Beachy Christmas. I inked it up with some MFT Sweet Tooth pigment ink, and it will dry back lighter, so I'm going to do something a little bit later on to make it stand out more. Now I'm using my Honeybee Bee Creative glue to attach this to the front of the card base, and then we're going to really get ready to start assembling this card. I was trying to be really careful because pigment ink takes a really long time to dry, so I didn't want to smudge it because that sentiment was still wet. I'm placing all of the images down where I think I want everything to go so that I can get ready to glue them on. And before I do that, I am going around the edges of all of the images that I fussy cut out and using a black brush marker to go around the edges. This will help finish it off. I did not cut these out perfectly by any means, and it just takes that white core away on all of the sides, and it just gives it a more finished look. I did have a problem with my glue clogging up, so I did have to stick a pin in it, but now that it all works, I am just putting that same Bee Creative Honeybee glue onto all of the pieces and gluing them down. I was going to pop the Santa up because I wanted him to be in front of the surfboard, but I also didn't want to create too much dimension for the card, so I decided against that, and I am just going to glue it down with that same Bee Creative Honeybee glue. And then, of course, I had to add a little bit of sparkle and shine. So I got out my glitter glue stick from Lawn Fawn. I don't know exactly what it's called. I always forget to check. And I do the pom-pom and then the brim of his hat with that. And then I'm going to go in and add detail with my white gel pen. I'm adding highlights to all of the lights on the palm tree. I will add some white detail to the coconuts. as well as I believe the palm tree leaves. I think I even added some white to that. I'm also going to add white to that water line where I thought that I was going to do foam. I add a little bit of white to the sand side as well as the white part for the water. And I'm going to add little highlights to all of the lights on that sand castle as well. Now that I've added the gel pen in, I look at the sentiment and realize that it doesn't stand out from the card as much as it should. So once the pigment ink was dry, I went over top of all of the letters, and then I go back in and add in some little bit more details for some texture with that white gel pen. And that is the card for the day. So if you guys have not watched the intro video for this series, please do so. I will leave a link in the description box below so that you can check it out. There are giveaways associated with this, and I don't want you to miss any of that. So all of the details for that giveaway or the giveaways are over on the intro video. Like I said, I will link it below. And that was the card for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll see you again real soon for another video. Bye!